play as short as you want. It could be they actually do need to put their tongue on the reed and clip tongue, which I know goes against everything we tell them, but they have to stop that reed from vibrating. They just need to do it very lightly. And you couldn't hear it, but when I was in lessons with him and he would demonstrate it, when he puts his tongue on the reed to clip tongue, it's so light you can still hear air coming through his horn. Like, he doesn't even stop the reed 100%. It's more like 98%. So as a band director, if your clarinets aren't playing short enough, that could be it. No, don't like all of a sudden in band rehearsal tell them, slap your tongue on the reed. Like, you have to, I try to prepare that in sectionals before the director's gonna have to say it. I also, that one where you go da-da-da-da-da-da that he was doing, I call that skipping rocks. Like, it barely touches, like a rock skipping on water. Your tongue's just barely touching the reed. Right hand down. There's an article that I was gonna share, and the website's down. But have y'all heard, any of you heard of Crossing the Break? So that's a podcast I did a while back. It's just like a standalone podcast, nothing's added to it. It has all these topics, and the website, when it's up, which apparently it's not right now, there's an article called Right Hand Down or Not, and it explains my thinking on it real clearly and gives you examples of when to use it. I think a lot of people, the reason they teach right hand down to beginners, and Landon, is this going right now?
Stream, yes.
Okay, so I'm following up from our last clinic for those of you that just joined us, and we'll be starting our next 1:30 clinic here in just a minute. The reason they start with right hand down is because the kids have a hard time holding the clarinet, you know, so that keeps them a little bit from having bad hand position. But I don't start my kids on the whole clarinet. We start on the top half. Well, we start on mouthpiece and barrel, but then we go to the top half, and you can play songs on the top half, and then by the time we add the bottom half, we're ready to start using fingers. So if that's your main reason, if you can find that article once it gets back up, whatever's going on with that, that might help. I think that was, there's another article called Why Are My Clarinets Playing Flat? And it has like 7 different things to check and how to check them. But again, that'll be whenever Crossing the Break comes back up. So they are getting the,
Sorry, it's totally my fault.
that's okay, getting the slides done. Landon, is she close enough I should go and introduce her? Or not yet?
Yeah.
Not yet. Okay. So we will be back with you guys in just a second. We're going to be doing Ginger Denney's clinic on creating a great culture in your band program. We'll be starting here in just a second. Kelly, did you ask for that?
Sure.
While we're doing that, also, if you're online, the handouts, if you go to banddirectorstalkshop.com, the very first article has a link to the full handout. Did everyone in here get the handout? Okay.
No. I'm almost there. I promise.
Check that one list right here.
I know.
And for those of you online that may not know, we're running this workshop in conjunction with the WT Band Camp that has 1,000 students here on campus in Canyon, Texas. And Ms. Denney is one of the band directors for one of those camp bands. So she has been in rehearsal all day, just got done, probably ate in about 10 minutes, and came over here to do this clinic. So Ms. Denney is a high school band director at Randall High School, yes, in Canyon. And how long have you been there?
I've been there since 2011, I guess, as the head director. And before that, I was at Greenways Intermediate, which is a 6th grade campus. So I did beginners all day long for about 6 years. And then before that, I was at Alamo Junior High as an assistant junior high band director in Midland, Texas. So I've taught 6th grade through 12th grade.
Awesome. So, and when I asked her, I knew I wanted her to do a clinic because she's just great and she's been a big part of the band camp, and asked what she felt like was her special gift with band and what she would want to talk about, and instantly she was like, band culture. So I'm very excited to see what she has to say.
Thank you.
Extras?
There's a couple of people that maybe didn't get one.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here. This is something that is near and dear to my heart. I'm very passionate about the culture of our band program and the culture of your classroom. I know some of you in here are elementary and junior high and high school, and so there's a variety of different classroom settings that you're in. All of this is applicable to anything that you're doing. We can't teach students unless they really want to be there. And sometimes we get kids that they're there because they have to be, or there is no other choice, especially if you're in a smaller school setting, or if you're in the elementary classroom and you've got every kid in the school that's going to be there. So it's really important to me for you to be able to have a culture where everyone feels accepted, where they feel they belong, and they feel valued. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. I have a little bit more of a high school lens than I do like for this presentation, but again, it can all be kind of translated into the other things that you do. So our goals for today, we're gonna define and refine what your idea of culture is, because that's really important. My classroom isn't gonna look like your classroom. The things that I value in my program is gonna be different than yours, and that could be based on, please don't ever hesitate to email me. That is in the presentation as well. We already talked about this. I thought this was a very fitting picture. That was on the day of junior high contest a few years ago. And it was like a kid's instrument broke, and we thought it would be funny. I was like, ugh! It was like this broke, another thing broke, and I was like, all right, I've got duct tape, I have like masking tape and a rubber band, and sometimes that's what you have. Conventions, and has written and collaborated in writing beginner band books and other things. But this is something that we really subscribe to. Leadership isn't something we do, it's something we are. So you are a leader. So we are looking for those kids that I'm not just pretending to be a leader in the moment, and in that, like to lead a sectional or whatever. I am a leader at all times. I'm a leader when I'm at the grocery store with my parents. I'm a leader when I'm in algebra. I'm a leader when I'm in the band room. That's who I am, you know, start to finish. It's not just a face or an act that we're putting on. And sometimes that's hard for teenagers. So how do you define your classroom and band culture? For us, we look at what kind of culture we want to have. What do you value? For us, do you value kids that are, students that are all-state musicians, the top of the top, the cream of the crop? Those kids that are your first chairs, the kids that are practicing all the time, do you place value on that? And by placing value, I don't mean you like give them $5 or whatever, but do you praise them more? Do you use them as an example? Are they used in a way in your classroom that everyone goes, oh, well, you're the class favorite. You're Miss Denney's favorite kid because you're the, you know what I mean? You're the one that is always the shining example. Well, why don't you play that, you know, Mr. Smith? Why don't you play this line out of the book? Oh, see, why can't everyone be like that? How many minutes do you practice every day? Oh, I wish everyone could be like so-and-so. Those are the things that you've placed value on in your classroom. Whether the kids know, whether you realize it or not, all those things that you're praising, those are things you're valuing. So just like in classroom management stuff, if you want kiddos to sit still and be quiet, instead of going, sit down and shut up, it's maybe more of a, oh, I really appreciate how everyone is being so quiet. And you find the one kid that's always wiggly and they're sitting still and quiet, and you recognize that. And so you're praising that kiddo and showing, like, I'm valuing the way, like, you came in quietly. Thank you so much. That is amazing. That's placing some value on that. So is it your all-state kids? Are you only praising and spending time, energy, effort, money, offering sectionals after school for just those kiddos? Or are you doing it for everybody that's in the group? Could it be that you're valuing, there are kids that are music lovers. They just love to be in band. Those are usually my second band kiddos. Like if I have 3 bands, top band is usually, those are usually your kids that are super competitive. They value competition. They want to be the best of the best. They're like ready to go. They want a chair test every week. That's what they want. Second band kids are like, nah, can we play the Avengers theme? Can we do that? Like they want to do something fun. They love playing in the music part of it. They like the music part. They're not gonna be your band directors, music teachers when they go out into the world. They're gonna be your music lovers that are there. So how do you appreciate them? And then we all have those kids that are there for social reasons, where they're like, oh yeah, I like the trips. Oh, what, you can be in band? If we go to Six Flags, I'm in. You know, and they're super excited about it. They want to be there for the parties. They want to be there for the bus rides, the pep rallies, that sort of, it's the social aspect of being in band that is important to them. That's important too. We need those kiddos. They are contributors to our program, you know, because just like your parents, and I know if you are a parent, we all say, everybody always says, I love all of my children equally. There is the one that drives you more crazy than everybody else. You still love them, but you're like, whew, they're trying me today, you know, and and it's the same with the kids that we teach. We don't have favorite students, but there are kids when they walk in the room and you go, I'm going to be positive today. I'm turning over a new leaf for you, you know, and that's just the reality of it. That's the absolute reality of what we do. And as educators, I hope we do that and don't go, ugh, you were a turkey yesterday and now I'm gonna grill you, or whatever. You just give them a new chance, a new opportunity. The next thing in choosing your band culture, what do you want? What is the utopian view of your band room or of your classroom? How do they enter the room? How do they exit the room? What would be like the perfect thing? If your mentor, your musical mentor, the person you hold in the highest regard musically, came into you and came into your rehearsal or your room, how would you want it to look so that you weren't like nervous, stressed out, embarrassed? We've all had that. I remember the first time Dr. Garner came and like observed my class, or he was gonna come and do a clinic, I was like panicked. Anybody I was like, oh no, they're gonna come in and somebody's gonna talk and somebody's gonna be on a phone. Oh, please don't wear your hat today. You know, like all the things. And then I realized, if I'm stressed about that because he's there, then why am I not taking care of that beforehand? You know, like what have I let go? So that's the culture I've allowed to kind of like to perpetuate that's in there. So if they come in really loud, is that the culture I want? If they if they leave the room a mess and are expecting me to clean it up every day, is that the culture that I want to have? Do they know how to set up the chairs and stands? Do they take care of their equipment? How do I get them to do that? So it's kind of figuring out what your utopian worldview. And then how do you get students on the same page as you? Like how do we get them to understand not just what you want, but why you want that? When I teach, especially sixth graders, like our beginner kiddos, I'll talk to them and let them know, like we have all of the rules. We sit in our chair this way, we breathe this way, we hold our instrument this way, we enter the room like this. This is our way of doing things. And inevitably why do we have to do this? Why do I have to sit like this? And I'll go through the reasons and say, I will never, ever ask you to do anything without a reason for it. I'm not gonna have, just say, because I said so. I was like, I'm not your mom. You haven't asked me a million questions yet. It's just the 6th grade, wait till 7th. And then it's I've thought it through, and I want you to know, I've thought this through from the beginning to end, and this is why. And eventually they're like, oh, it's because Denney said so. I guess we're gonna do it. She knows what she's talking about. But you have to convince them and get them on that same page. So letting them know that you care, and what we've left on the bus is absolutely nothing. No trash, no anything. I don't know what way that is that you did, but that is not the Randall way. We need to fix that. And so we talk about that in our classroom. So our culture is based on what the Randall way is. And I think this year is gonna be a different year for us. We have our school divided. And so we have another high school that's opened up. And so our school is a smaller size, but now we have a junior high that has the same name as us. So we have Randall Junior High and Randall High School. So we can start kind of incorporating that brainwashing about the Randall way in there from, junior high on up and going, well, this is the Randall way. This is the way we're gonna do it here. And what does that mean? That means that we do things with pride, we do things with excellence, we try to do things, and if we don't, doesn't mean the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. I'm a big proponent of the kid is not like a terrible human being, and that they need to know that. Our kids are so fragile, some of them, that when they do something incorrectly or they do something wrong and we reprimand or we correct them, they think that we are telling them they are a horrible, awful human being. And we have to establish that super early on as part of our culture, that I can critique you and you're not gonna break down and cry because I told you it's A natural and not A flat. And I didn't tell you were a horrible, awful person and you should quit playing the flute. And you go home and tell your mom that you should quit playing the flute and Miss Denney yelled at you. You just play it A natural, should be A flat, add your pinky, done. Woo, yay, move on. So it's trying to teach that from the very beginning and letting them know that making mistakes is part of the learning process. That's a huge thing. So that's part of our culture. That happens even on the marching field. A run through goes terribly, which happens, and we fall apart and we'll stop, we'll analyze it. Well, what happened? Who was off? And so because we've kind of talked about that throughout their 6th grade year about being okay with critique, it's like, oh, it was the horns were off. And so the trumpets can call the horns out and they're like, yeah, we know. And it's not, oh, they were bullying me and I was mad. It was like, no, you rushed and you came in a beat early or whatever. So you can take ownership of the mistakes you make. So then you can take ownership and have pride in correcting those mistakes and moving forward. That's part of our culture that we have. What do you want it to look like? For me, it's everybody working together, having a sense of pride, a love of music and band. This is key for me. It's not necessarily for everyone. Some people, one of the things is, I want to win the world. We want to be the best we can possibly be at everything. Well, yeah, of course. But at the end of the day, when all of my kids graduate, the number of them that are going to go off and fill our shoes and be the music educators of tomorrow, it's a handful of students, just like it's a handful that are going to be doctors and lawyers and do whatever else. What I want is every single kid to be a proponent and a lover of music. I want them to be a supporter of music, live music. I want them to understand what good music is and what like a terrible live performance is. I don't know, I had a student, just as an example, they went to a concert, like a rock, I don't know what the kids listen to these days, but they went to some concert and they came back and they're like, it was my favorite group, but not anymore. I don't know what they were doing. It sounded terrible. They were so out of tune, and that drummer and blah, blah. And I was like, good for you. You were able, as a 15-year-old kid, to go and listen and analyze and and you made a musical decision. And so now maybe you're not going to support terrible music. You're going to find something, something that is better music. I want them to be the ones that support our fine arts programs in our schools, that have their kids go off to be in band and orchestra and choir, to go to the symphony concerts in our area, to do all of those things, to vote in the bond election when they look and they go, what? It's only all athletic stuff? Where's the new band hall? Where's the new choir facility? What about I want them to do those things. So that's a big part for me in creating our culture. And I think that changes the way our kids feel about what they do. Like competitively, we want to do the best and we want to be the best, but ultimately it's about we want to be better than we were the day before. And if we keep moving that way, that's what we want to do. Give 100% all the time, doesn't happen. But that's what I'd like for it to look like. And growth as a human being and a musician. When they come in the 9th grade, and they leave in their senior year, I want to be able to look at them and say, man, remember when you were a freshman? Yeah, it was rough, buddy. It was totally rough. And look at you now. You have a job. You were able to pay for your car. I didn't think you could tie your shoes. And look at what you've done. I want to see that human growth. I want to see that social growth that they have. I didn't put it up here, but the other thing I want it to look like is completely inclusive. One of the coolest parts, any marching band director, how many marching band directors do we have in here? Just a couple. If you stand on the tower and you look down and it's a break, and it's like a water break, and you watch the students go in their clumps of friends, one of my favorite things is to stand up there and look down and I go, there's all the there's some nerdy kids. There's some kids that are like cowboy kids. There's the kids that are dressed in a hoodie and long pants in the 105-degree weather, and they're all standing over here. And then there's here's the group of shy kids. There's the gamer kids that haven't worn deodorant yet. And here's the other, all of the other, they're there, and it's the truth. It is the truth. But it's everybody. And I watch that at the very beginning of our marching rehearsals, and then as we go through the year, I look down, I can't find those groups anymore. Those groups have they're gone. That's it. They've now become integrated. They have discovered that just because you look like me and sound like me and wear the same hoodie as I do doesn't mean that you're my only people. They look around and they're like, oh, you're my people, and you're my people, and you're my people. And they find their family. So it's an idea of being a part of a family that is also really important and a big part of our culture. How do we get students on the same page? Model it, practice, 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 review, modify, adjust, continue, repeat. So the way we want them to do the same thing, one of the first things we do to get kids, we have water jugs in marching season. And one of our Randall Way things is when we put them on the sideline, it's not just a total mess. So I let them the first day, I talk to our leadership team about what it needs to look like, and I leave it alone. I don't say anything. And then they go out on the field, and then I'll call leadership up, because some sections do it and some don't, and I'll go, what do you guys see on the sideline? Is that the way that we do that? Why would we do it this way? We want everything we see to be organized. We want to act as a unified group. We want to take pride in that. We want it when we walk up, all of our water jugs are facing the same direction. They're all here. And so the next day, leadership kids have, everybody is lined out, instruments that are sitting on the sideline, they have a towel, they're all facing the same direction. It's they take pictures of it because it's so pretty. It's on Instagram. I mean, it's a weird thing, whatever. But it's just talking to them and communicating with them about that sort of stuff. Esprit de corps, my favorite thing. Feeling of pride, fellowship, and common loyalty shared by the members of the group. That is what we want. That's what we want in our groups. That's what you want in your elementary class. If you're in a class that you've got 3rd graders, you want them to feel like they are a part of something and not just floating out in the wind and they're in here for 1 hour. But esprit de corps, that is it's super important. You probably feel that or have felt that in your college bands or your college organizations, something that you feel or maybe it's your church or in your family or something like that where you feel or your favorite football team, whatever it is, you feel this pride and fellowship. If you've ever gone to a college football game and you're really into it or just watching it, you see everybody and it's all of a sudden everybody shows up in the same color because they knew. all 20,000 people. We're all in the same color. We're all screaming the same thing. The band plays the fight song, or everybody is screaming and yelling. Loyalty, common goal. We bleed whatever color that is. That's what I want my kids to do. I want them to, bleed black and silver for the time that I have them. Those are our colors. So how do we get there? So asking the questions, what type of students do you have? And by type, I mean, are they super highly motivated? Is this your first year to teach them in your class? Is this your first year at that organization? Are they socioeconomically disadvantaged? Do they have lots of parent involvement? If they are on the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum, or they are, there's not a lot of parent involvement, you are probably and possibly the biggest influence on their life as a positive adult. And guys, gentlemen, for a lot of those kiddos, you might be the only positive male figure that they have. Or you are one of the few, because they don't that's consistent. That is a consistent every single solitary day. And so what you do and what you model is really important for them. That goes back to that, what do you value? Are you valuing that kiddo? Is all you see in that student something that, like, their faults? Or are you catching those things that are really good? Are you catching those little moments you can praise them? And sometimes it's just, you tapped your foot for 3 beats today. I'm so proud of you. High five. Let's go for 4 tomorrow. Then you were quiet and sat in your chair for the first 10 minutes. Can we do like 12 minutes tomorrow? Come on. You got this. You did so much better today than yesterday. And if they fail, let them know it's okay. It's okay to fail at something. But why are they there? Why are the students there? That's the other part that you need to know. Again, is it my mom made me, or all my friends signed up, so I was going to sign up? Or are you in a situation where it's a smaller school and every kid has to choose between band and ag? Or they get band and band, and that is it. And then at some point, they get to, like when they get to high school, they get to choose other things. So how do you keep them there? And part of that is it's this family that you create. How do they enter and exit the room? How do they rehearse? That's part of your culture as well. If they don't do it correctly, do you do the whole, all right, well, we didn't, here, let's go over the expectations again. I'm not mad at you. We didn't get it right today. So we're gonna have to take up some of our time in rehearsal. I never yell, I don't raise my voice. It's just that disappointed mom look. Where you do the, I'm sorry, we just didn't make this happen today. So everybody stand up quietly. Nope, sit back down. Everybody sit. I'll give you 2 instructions. First one is to stand up, the second one is to be quiet. Are we ready? Okay, stand up quietly. We're gonna line back up out in the hallway and we're gonna try it again. And they come in, yes, let's do that tomorrow. Cool, we can move on. And I don't mind doing that at any point in the year. The day before contest. You come in acting a fool, we start over. That's the expectation, that's the Randall way, that's what we do. So that's part of it. How do they respect each other and shared spaces? If you're in a group where there's a lot of gossip, where there's a lot of this section is better than that section, or I'm better than you, or all state kids, or something like that, and there's a lot of snarkiness, if you've ever taught color guard. Sometimes that can happen, not sometimes, most of the time. But how do they respond to each other, and what example do you want to have in there? Is that the culture you want? Do you want people who see the band from the outside to look at it and go, or do you want to stand on the outside and watch kids just tear each other apart for no reason other than, you were by my locker today, or you touched my water bottle, I hate you, or whatever it is, because there are things. I mean, students are our young kids are very I me. It's where they are developmentally. I me, I me, and they're worried about not just what I am and what I'm doing, but how everyone else around me perceives me. So if they have to be the cool kid, that's a thing, and so they might have to be mean to someone else to be the cool kid in their mind. And how do we change that to a we us? Like, no, let's not do that. And so our leaders kind of help with us to do that. And then consideration, your school district, the reputation you have within your school or within your district. I know for us and some other of our sister schools that are in our district, we talk to our administrators and they'll go, oh, it's not the band kids. The band kids are fine. We're not talking to you. It's the blah, blah, blah kiddos. We've established that culture. Our school, our administrators know that we are on top of it, that we know our kids are gonna do what they need to do, our kids are gonna pass, we are gonna be honest about what we're doing with our kids, we're gonna be fair, we're not gonna cut kids out unfairly and be rude and mean. So if So they don't buy that if a parent is upset about anything, like, that's not our band program. That's not at all how any of that is run. And I know that's the same for us as well as other schools in our district. And then what is your district reputation? Do people, when they come to your school or you go to all region tryouts or area auditions or solo and ensemble, or are they like, oh no, the Randall band is coming? Everybody hold on to your things. They're going to steal all your stuff. Make sure they don't take your tickets from Mr. Gaddy's. Those kids leave things a mess all the time. We know because there are other schools that were like, oh man, such and such school is here. Okay. Now, and then we have to have the talk of, I don't care what anybody else is doing. That's not the way we do things. We have to be above. We are not going to do that. That's the way they're going to do. That's fine. That's their way. Our way is this. And if I see you not doing our way, we will have a conversation. You'll be my date for the rest of the day. And we'll talk about the Randall way or whatever. Like, we have to maybe have those conversations. I never want that negative thing to be a part of us. We travel to area marching contests, stay in a hotel. We've got 205 kids that are staying in hotels with parents and all kinds of stuff. And I'm always on edge for any of that because there's 205 teenagers staying the night in a hotel. What could go wrong? And I'm always really excited and every single solitary time, and I know some of you in here can say the exact same thing, we'll get a phone call, or our district travel clerk will get a phone call or an email saying, you can stay at our place any time you want to. We had the wrestling team from your school here. They can't stay here anymore. But we want, and I'm using wrestling team just randomly. Our wrestling team's fine. For those wrestlers watching. The wrestling, they were fine. But they do. They send an email back, and that travel clerk will send it to me and copy in our superintendent and our district administrators and things like that. And so we end up going like, well, yes, it is amazing. We are fabulous. You know, no one stole a pillow, alarm clock, or anything. We ate breakfast. We cleaned up our space. It was great. But we've had to have conversations with our kids about it, train them, and then we can't be there every single moment of the day. So our student leaders are the ones that have to make sure all of those things happen. So there you go. What type of leadership style? There's 1,000 things that you can do. Number of directors on staff. If you only have you, that might change what you can do leadership-wise because you are the person that is the only person in the world that's there. What's working now? Is there part of your culture that you're like, I love this, I don't want to change that, I want to build on that? What's not working? So that's kind of what you need to think of. We talked about this a little bit. Who is always chosen to help? It's the line leader that's in elementary school. You know, if you're the line leader, sorry, I'm moving around. If you're the line leader in elementary school, you're like, I was the line leader this week or today, and I had this job. And like, they're super excited about that. Junior high and high school kids are the same way. They're absolutely the same way. Kids would love to be the one in charge of something. We have chosen, like I talked about our band ninjas briefly in the 6th grade. I had a group of kids that are our latchkey kids. They weren't a part of our after school program. Their parents didn't get off of work until maybe 5 o'clock. And so they were just at the school. And the school was going to make them stand outside in the weather, in the elements, all by themselves as like an 11-year-old kid. And I was like, oh, I'm in the band hall. Why don't you come in the band hall? And so they came in, and I was quickly discovered they needed a task. They needed things to do. You know, just, hey, practice your instrument. That's not going to happen. It was, okay, you're going to be my locker ninjas. And they went, what's that? And I was like, let me think. Let me figure this out. They were the ones that would go, I gave them a little yellow tablet and a pencil, and they went around and they wrote down the numbers, the locker numbers of lockers that were either locked incorrectly. There was one group that did incorrectly locked lockers, and another one that they left their instrument in their locker overnight. And I was like, thank you very much. What did I do with that information? Nothing. I did absolutely nothing with that information. Honest to goodness, I didn't do anything with it. And I would come back, I said nothing. The next day I would go, oh, our locker ninjas found a lot of instruments that were left behind. You know who you are. And those kids are like, the locker ninjas are like, you know, and I'm looking like I know who has locker 103. I don't know, you know, but they have this sense of pride. Were those kids that were our locker ninjas first chairs? Absolutely not. Those were the kids that were struggling to play an open G on clarinet. The kids that were like on trumpet, the third 6 weeks in, we maybe got a G. Like, we can't read music still, But they have a place, and they were there every single day. They were at every single concert. They were wanted to be a part of that. They had a place to belong. And it was super, you're a locker ninja. The locker ninja became like stage crew and helping, you know. We did full band rehearsal, and at one point we had over 200 beginners, and so we had to do band rehearsal in the cafeteria for full band, like for a winter concert or whatever. And so I needed help with, we need to push the tables together, and who better than our designated locker ninja kids? These are kids that are never pulled out of class because they're good kids. They never get their name announced on the announcements because they were the, oh yay, thank you. He's like, push the buttons, Ginger. They never get those kinds of accolades. So that was really important. Did those kids stay in band until their 12th grade year? Most of them, yes. Were they in our third band? Absolutely. Were they on loading crew? Uh-huh. Did they help with anything and everything I possibly asked of them? Yes. Did I place value on them? Yes. Did the rest of the group around you know that those kids were in charge of that? They had something that they belonged to and that they were a part of, no matter what little part it was. So it was really important. And then, are there ways to give students who are in it for social time? Can they pick music? My third band kiddos, for the spring concert and for their winter concert, they get to choose music. And I say that it's the love and logic where you go, these are your choices. Which ones do you like? I'll set up like a Google form and submit music to ideas that you want. And we'll take like one day, like the day after UIL's concert and sight reading evaluation contest, we'll take one day where I'm like, okay, I want you to go to these sites and I want you to look up some band music. Your job today is to look up some different band music. You're gonna look at this grade level, we kind of go through it, see if there's some things that you wanna listen to, that you would like to play. We played The Mandalorian, we played like things that they really wanted. I wouldn't have looked for that, I'm old. I don't know what they want to listen to. You know, are there things that are beyond their scope? And we'll have a conversation about that. But I try to find something that's similar so that they can have some input in that. And then our concert attendance skyrocketed. The amount they practiced, huge improvement. But they had some buy-in in that. Let them dance in the stands. It's okay. It's okay to have fun in band. It is okay. It's okay to do fun games in the 6th grade. It's okay if it's not completely silent when you're playing those games. We do rhythm baseball. I don't know if you've ever played rhythm baseball before, but if the class is small enough, now if it's like 50 trombones, we're not playing rhythm baseball. We're doing something else. We're playing bingo in your chair, like sitting down. But doing those things that are fun and still have an educational component, it's never a movie day. We're not watching Finding Nemo and putting on that's not what we're doing. If we're gonna have a game day, it's a music game day. And we'll do that, and my kids will always ask, can we do game day again? When are we gonna do game day? And I'm like, we played bingo, music bingo for like 20 minutes. And then we did scale jail, stuff where they had to play parts of a scale and, you know, to get points for their team. Can we play that? Sure. You know, so anyway, they ask, but there are ways to get those kiddos involved and to show value to what they want. Choosing the dream team. Once you know what you want in leadership, this makes it a lot easier to do. When you've decided that you're gonna have a leadership team, communicate that with everyone. So you're gonna communicate that info to everybody. Last band, like your last chair kid in your program all the way to your first chair kid. I communicate it to parents, I put it out there, like teachers know about it. Everybody knows we're about to pick leadership team. This is happening, this is leadership interview, this is time. So that there is no one, and I do it often, I don't want anyone to ever come up and say, this was not communicated to me, I didn't even know this was happening, and I didn't have a chance. So it is communicated in every possible way I can communicate it, which is like, I put up flyers, I send it in our little Remind in our band app, I put it at like on our website, I send it, everything. Open applications to everyone. You do not have to be a senior to be on leadership team. You do not have to have served on, you don't have to be, you could be a freshman and apply for leadership team. There is nothing that says you cannot be a part of it. You could be last chair in the last band and you can apply for leadership team. You possibly have some leadership qualities that I would want to have. Just because you're not the best clarinet player doesn't necessarily mean you're not the best leader for the clarinet section or one of the best leaders. So that's really important to me. Thoughtful application questions. When you're coming up with your application questions, and if you look on the back of your handout, I put little URL, like tiny URLs, so they're smaller. I'm not smart enough to do anything different, but you can find those. But there's like samples of what our applications are. So there's samples of what our questions are for middle school and for what our questions are for high school stuff. Okay, the middle school ones are very basic because they are like, it's just very general. Why do you want to be a leader? What qualities do you think you have? What would you like to do differently? That kind of thing. For high school, it's much more in depth. It's almost like little essay questions that they have to kind of put in there. So it's questions that will let me know if they value the same things that I value through their answers. We've had students that, why would you like to be a leader? And they'll write me a paragraph on they would love to be able to tell somebody what to do. They've been doing that for a really long time. People have told them that they're bossy, but they're really just assertive. And I'm like, no, you're bossy. And like, I've met you. And that they've always wanted this opportunity to just be in charge of the entire band. And I'm like, I don't know that that's really what I'm looking for in a leader, is someone who wants to be in charge and be in control. That's not necessarily what I'm looking for in that. We need people to do those sorts of things, but not our whole team. References, interviews, that's up to you, depending on, again, if you're like a one-man band and you are the only person on your campus doing everything, you might not have time to set up individual interviews with all of those kids. We do that. We ask our kids to do 2 teacher references. So they have to be, and in that, when you look at that form, if you look at that form, we tell the teachers, hey, this is what this is for. This is the kind of student we're looking for. Like, we're looking for someone who has a strong work ethic. They don't have to be the best academically, but they're trying, like they're giving effort. They have to be, some of the characteristics that we're kind of looking for. And then we let them know your responses are absolutely confidential. We're not going to show them to the kids. I'm not going to show them to the parents. It's going to be the directors that are deciding on the leadership team. No one will know anything that's important for our teachers. And when we made that possible, teachers are super honest. And a kid, you're not going to ask somebody to be a reference for you for a job that is going to give you a terrible reference. You're going to go to people that you think are going to give you a great glowing reference. So it's really telling to me when, I get a reference from Mr. Sager, and the person is like, oh man, that kid hasn't turned in anything in 3 weeks, and they are just terrible in my class, and they're talking all the time. I'm like, what do you think you're doing in that class? You obviously think you have a different perception of who you are in that classroom than the teacher does. So sometimes that's an issue. Send reminders about the deadline, but I don't do that super often. I'm like, don't forget, leadership stuff is due in about a week. You need to be on that, because I want them to know. They need to know that that's coming up. They need to, if it's important to them, they'll remember. If it's not important to them, they'll forget. We had a kiddo a couple years ago that didn't submit their application, and they came in on the following Monday, and they were like, I just totally, I don't know what happened. I didn't think it was this. I thought it was this next Friday. And I went, I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry. But I was on leadership team last year. Can't you just, I'm really sorry. That was the deadline. I tell them, this is a hard deadline. There is wiggle room for, of course, extraneous, circumstances. And I also talk about, get it done early. It's not an excuse if you're waited till the last minute, the 11th hour, and your internet at your house goes down. I'm really sorry. You had 13 days to get that done, and you waited until right then, to do that. So you get it done early, and then you'll be done with it, and you won't have to worry about it again. So maybe that's a lesson they learn. And then the last thing is open door policy after the team is selected. I have zero problem talking to any student about why they made it or why they didn't make it. That goes for drum major, whatever. If they want to know why they did not make that position or get that role or be a part of the team, no problem in you coming to talk to me. I do want you to take 2 days away from it, though. You need a 48-hour time period for you to cool off, for you to emotionally get settled, and 80% of the time, they don't need to talk to me again. We'll set up a time for us to talk, and they'll come in. I'm like, hey, did you still want to visit? No, I'm okay. Okay, cool. If you do later, let me know. I'm happy to talk to you. And the ones that do, they come in, and there hasn't been, maybe one, there hasn't been very many or haven't been very many that have come in and been like, I don't understand why you didn't put me on that. I think you were wrong. There was one, and it was a person who didn't get drum major, and they cried the whole entire time. And they were like, you made a mistake, and this is going to be a terrible year in band for you. And I was like, thank you for letting me know how you feel. Further, my choice of not picking you as drum major, check. I did good. That was a good choice on my part. But they usually come in and they're like, what can I do to do better next year? I know I'm a senior and I didn't make leadership team. How can I do better in my interview? I know I was really nervous. Can you help me with that? Because we have that culture of just because you didn't get it, you're not first chair, doesn't mean you're a terrible, horrible, awful human being. You have an opportunity for growth. So I think that's important for them to know, and for us to do. Teams assembled, now what? Go team, go. You have 3 different ways and more to do some different trainings for your students. Workshops, retreats, and camps, videos, and online. With the terribleness that COVID is and was, and us having to do online learning, one of the things that maybe is a positive that came from that, there is a ton of online material and resources that are geared towards just about everything. Some of it is really great, some of it's just horrible, like nasty crap. But some of it is really, really good stuff. And so you can go through and kind of look and pick and choose things that you like just type in student leadership videos, and you'll get a whole gamut of things that are in there. Workshops, we usually do those in-house. I'm usually the person, or we'll bring somebody in to do a workshop, and we just have our kids there. They go home at the end of it. We have done retreats before where we go to, we've gone to Cedar Canyon, which is it's in our area, but it's like little cabins, and so they have to stay in a cabin, and we do like a ropes course and some team building things, that sort of stuff for our kiddos. That became really expensive at some point. It went from being like, oh, it's $800 to this is $4,000 for your students to stay, and it was like, we'll just not do that. And then there are different camps that are all across the state of Texas and anywhere. There are camps that you can go to all over the place. There's leadership track here at band camp. I know there's leadership stuff. You can find something for your kids to go to or go and do, or for you to go and do. Anyway, there's lots of stuff for you to do. John Maxwell, there's also the other part about training your leaders. You have to train yourself first. You have to know what it is that you be a true leader. What kind of leader do you want to be for your students to make sure that you are doing the best by them? And so these are some names, and there's 1,000 more, but these are some that I've used in the past. Of course, Dr. Tim, Scott Lang, Dwayne Huff, those people, Scott Lang and Dwayne Huff send me emails every 3rd Tuesday. Yep. And all the time. And some of the stuff, I'll watch some of it and go, ooh, those are some really good, I'll take this nugget and this nugget. I like these little things that are from that. I won't necessarily use the whole thing, but I'll use little nuggets from it. John Maxwell, 21 Laws of Leadership. If you haven't read it, read it. Put it on your list. Just look up John Maxwell. It's the first book that comes up. Just about anything that he has. It's not super long, but it will take you, it took me a while to go through because I'd read the first one and go, It's like Atomic Habits, which I don't know if you've talked about that yet. Couple of days? You do? That's another book that it's fantastic. But there are some things that you should to train yourself. Stephen Covey, Simon Sinek, Daniel Pink, those guys are really great. Bless you. And then there are 1,000 different TED Talks. On the back, I put some TED Talks to check out for you. Am I out of time? Okay, no, she was getting up. I was like, she was going to kill me.
I'm going to check up, get a kid in now.
Okay, I was like, no. There are different TED Talks. There are a million. These are ones that we've used before. There are a couple that are really funny, that are really short and just super cute and funny that I think you would enjoy just from as a you standpoint. Everyday Leadership by Drew Dudley. He talks about lollipop moments. So if you haven't done lollipop moments, if you don't know what that is, he has a quick little 3 or 4 minute little talk, and it's really good on how we make impressions on people, and they remember things about us and things we've said that we have no idea, no remembrance of at all. How many times have you had a kid say, do you remember when you were blah, 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 and on the bus you said, ha, 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 Timothy, and everybody just laughed, and you're like, I don't remember any of that. I remember none of that at all. All the time. And it's about little things that we say to people that leave a lasting impression, positive or negative, and it's important for our kids to hear that. Where's the other one? Inside the Mind of a Master Procrastinator. Oh, if you haven't watched that, that's me. That is total, and if it relates to you at all, that is it is there. It's fantastic. Another short little thing that's really good. How to Start a Movement is also another short one. And we talk about that in our leadership thing. It has a dance party. It's an outdoor music festival. And it's this they call it a one lone nut. So it's a one crazy person. And he's out there and he's dancing and everybody's looking at him hee hee, and somebody's videoing with a cell phone look at that idiot, I don't know what's happening there. And then somebody else joins him and they high five, and then another person joins, and then pretty soon everybody that's in the audience is there, and they're running to get there. And it's who's the most important? The one person that started it? No, it's the first follower. the first person that got on board with you. So as a leader, you have to champion your followers and encourage your followers and give them, so it's a little lesson in that. So there's some little nuggets that you can kind of incorporate into your stuff. The Fred factor is also a good one. It's Fred the mailman. Anybody familiar with the Fred factor? You probably are. Yeah, that's a good one, another good one that's in there. Anyway, so there's some examples. There are a bajillion more. You can find anything. If you're wanting to look at ways that people can be inclusive, then you could look it up on like TED Talks and find little things for that you can put into your leadership presentations if you're doing it on your own. You don't have to be the be-all, end-all knowing of everything. And then you don't have to talk for 20 hours either. All right, our general timeline for leadership stuff. Second, third week of April, we do leadership applications. They go out and they're due 1 or 2 weeks later. That's usually right during the week of UIL contest or the week right after, just depending on kind of where that falls. The last week of April, that's the week after contest. We do leadership interviews, and we interview every kid who has applied. We don't do a culling. We're cutting people out beforehand. Everyone gets an opportunity. I read through all of their application stuff. Usually I do it like, okay, I have these 6 kids that I'm gonna do tomorrow, that I'm gonna do an interview tomorrow. Let me read their applications, make some little notes of things I might wanna ask them. I have a set of, here's the questions I'm gonna ask for everybody, and then things I might wanna know. And this part, the interview part, is so telling. It is so awesome. You get to see, I have never had kids that like you talk to your kids every day, and you high five them, and you like are in the room with them all the time, and you see them in this interview, and they're sweating, and they're like sitting on the edge of their chair, and they're like nervous about it, and you're like, it's just because they're taking it so seriously. It's so important to them, and it's so cool for me to go, you really want to be a part of this. You want to be a part of you want to be a part of the club. So I like that. We post it the first week of May, and then we do our retreat, training, workshop stuff, usually before our fish camp, which is before the first day of school. In junior high, when we do it in junior high, we usually do that not before school. We usually do that during the school week, like before we start sectionals or something along those lines. We'll do like leadership interview stuff at the beginning of the year and do it that way for them. Meetings during the year as needed. This year, our schedule changed a little bit. We used to have an 8-minute passing period, but because our stuff changed, we now went to 5. Thank the Lord, Betty Ford. So we have like tons of, like, there's so much more time in the day. So they now gave all that extra time, instead of like teaching classes, we have an extra like PLC, RTI time. Yay! So on one of those days gets to be a day that is just like for band. And so one of those days is gonna be just for our leadership team. So every Monday of the week, we'll go before school starts, which is our PLC time, and we'll have leadership meeting every Monday, especially in the fall. As we get, like, it's a new football game, hey, this is our traveling stuff, because those leadership kids are the ones that actually communicate that information a lot of that information to our other students. Responsibilities, whatever you need them to do. Sky's the limit, mostly. My rule of thumb, I never ask them to do something I'm not willing to do myself. If I'm not willing to go all the way and get ice and water, even though it's a pain in the neck, if I'm not willing to do that, then I'm not gonna ask a kid to do that. If I'm not willing to help load the truck, I'm not gonna ask a kid to do that. Now, do I have to do those things? No, because kids are way more willing to do them than anybody else. The other big part about our student leaders, they give me the pulse of the band. They're down there, they know what morale is, they know what the talk is, the chatter by the lockers when they're putting their stuff up. They know what's going on. So I can have a leadership meeting and go, how's it going? Looks like the trumpets are being a little like, what's going on in the trumpet section? Y'all were not cohesive at all. And they can give me, oh, here's what's happening. And I get, maybe it's so-and-so broke up with such and such. This is happening here. And so they can't stand next to each other. And I'm like, okay, got it. So I'm not gonna put them in groups to work on things together. So they can help me with that. Our students never enforce consequences because that's hazing. I never have our kids go, oh, you run a lap. You run a lap. Our students are not responsible for that at all. That comes from a director, adult teacher. They can let me know, like they'll take attendance and go, these kids were late, here's that list. And then I'm the one who says, you are the following students, take your lap, here you go. And it's consequences without emotion, 99% of the time, unless emotion is needed. It's consequences without emotion. So it's, you did something wrong, sorry about you, this is the consequence that goes with that. And then Our upper level leadership kids, like our drum majors, our band captains, those kinds of kiddos, they provide checks and balances for me. I'll pull them in to my office, can you guys come in here? Rehearsal did not go well today. What can I do to make that better? I feel like I didn't do right by, I feel like I did something weird. What can I do to do better for you guys? And they'll let me know. You didn't give us enough time for water breaks, and then you didn't get oh, you're right. In a 3-hour rehearsal, you got water once. Okay, yeah, I've got to be better about that, or whatever. But I have to not be afraid to be human in front of them either, and let them know I make mistakes, and that's okay. You got to help me out with that. So that's something that they get to do. Maintaining the momentum with your leadership team. We check in with them often, so every week. When it becomes less crazy schedule, we do every 2 weeks, we'll check in with them. And we still do little leadership trainings. We still do some different training things. We'll do some, what they now call social emotional learning, but what I call band. So it's like the stuff that we do all the time. Okay, so, and then we modify and adjust, create your lollipop moments, and then we do a yearly end of the year survey, send it out to our leadership kiddos, and that's it. You lead the way you want, you set the example. If this is good in your classroom to do, and you're like, oh, that's so funny, look at you putting that sousaphone on your body, then the next thing you know, there's gonna be trombones on people's, and they're gonna be sending you pictures of all of this. It's the way that kids work. All right, ultimately, it's not your band. This is not your band. This is their band. This is their experience. You're gonna be there next year tweaking, refining, all of that stuff. This is their band. Your name's on it, maybe, but meet them where they are, push from there, and you got this. If there's any questions, we don't have time, and that's my email. Done.
All right, we're gonna do a quick break, and we'll start back at 2:30 with Jim Shaw.
No, I came in late. On the floor. Some sort of technology.